Now, I spoke at the top of the program about a leading Liberal who says enough of the Liberal Party, he's going to the Liberal Democrats, partly because, or largely because of the response to the pandemic, but other policy issues as well. This is John Ruddock. You've seen him on this station many times before. He's been a leading voice for reform in the Liberal Party. He joins me now live on air. John, you've pushed so long for reform. Now you're giving up and heading to the Liberal Democrats. You're going to be a candidate for them at the next federal election.
I am, yes. Look, my plan, Chris, I think you had read my book, Make the Liberal Party Great Again, which is all about how we can reform the party to bring about what the Liberal Party was really standing for up until the last few years, which, in the Westminster world, our ideal is Margaret Thatcher. Now, we haven't been getting that from our state or federal Liberal governments for some time now. And option one is to persist and try and reform the Liberal Party. That could be a 5 to 10 year project and it may not come off. Good chance. Right now, Chris, we've got 3 emergencies facing the Commonwealth. We've got a COVID elimination strategy, which is just going to send us back to the Stone Age if we persist with it. We've got a net zero carbon by 2050. We're all but under the Liberal Party. And most importantly, the one that's going to affect us for the generations to come is we have built a debt to Jupiter. Now, when Kevin Rudd lost in 2013, the Labor Party handed over about $250 billion in public debt. 3 Liberal Party prime ministers later, and it's over $1.2 trillion. So, we don't have time to turn this around, and I believe it can all be turned around. The Liberal Democratic Party is a libertarian party. It's been around for 20 years. It has been good on all of these issues from the beginning. So I'm just thinking, look,
we'll come back to that in a moment. But let's unpack some of what you've said there and what's happening under Liberal governments, coalition governments in this country. First up, the debt. It's undeniable. Hundreds of billions of dollars of debt, and they shovel more out every day, as we saw yesterday, largely driven by this zero COVID mission. And you point out in your article in the Australian Spectator today that instead of starting to open up more, even when we had the new plan to go forward the other week from Scott Morrison, he halved the number of people coming into the country. He went into the opposite direction to what we need to be heading at the moment, given the levels of vaccination here and around the world.
Look, I think the Liberal Party was founded by Robert Menzies. He was a free market enthusiast in every way. If he was in this situation now, all of his instincts would be to open up as quickly as possible. Now, we know that there is a very bad version of the flu out there. We're aware of that. We've also got to bear in mind all these lockdowns and everything, Chris. This is the thing that disturbs me the very most about COVID mania. It sets a very bad precedent. Okay, so how do we know? We could easily come out of this COVID thing, everything gets back to normal in a year or two. Look, in 7 years' time, in 13 years' time, they might come up with another reason to have a lockdown, and we've just gone along with it this time. So
we could also be hit by another or different kind of external threat. It could be another pandemic, it could be some other problem, and yet we've just racked up $1 trillion in debt. So we have less capacity to deal with other issues.
And, I keep hearing it said, interest rates are so low, there's never a better time to borrow money. Okay, well, last night in the United States, real inflation was up 4.5%, which is off the charts for their inflation over the last few years. This means that the Federal Reserve has lost control of keeping interest rates as low as they have been. So we've all gone and racked up this debt. It's not just the Commonwealth debt. Our friends Dominic Perrottet yesterday in the state government goes and gets all the state governments have gone and got themselves into heaps of debt. There's $2 trillion in government debt in this country. Now, it's all got to be paid back one day, and no one's even talking about how it's going to be paid back. So look, this is there's one party out there. I know it's a long shot, Chris, that we could turn the Liberal Democrats into a party of government, but it's our best shot, and they've been right.
It is a long shot, but you also talk about how it's the Liberal moderates that have driven a lot of these problems in the party. And the problem is if more people leave the party, you won't get this reform. Doesn't the Liberal Party need, more than anything else, strong conservative voices?
Well, that had been my approach for a couple of decades, Chris. However, when Peter Dutton lost to Scott Morrison in 2018, Peter Dutton got 40 votes, Scott Morrison got 45. Okay, now, people that voted for Peter Dutton are meant to be the conservative small government faction. And, according to the 2018 result, pretty much half the party room. Now, I'm sorry, those people, the so-called Conservative faction in the federal parliamentary party room, they have been very quiet. They have been too quiet. While the COVID state has been erected around us, they've been too quiet on all the debt. So I'm thinking, hey, boys and girls, if you can't talk up now, when are you going to talk up? Because they have failed the test. This is the test for the Conservative Liberals. So, yeah, let's start again.
Yeah, well, as I said at the top of the program, John, we're not even having this debate. We're having these pathetic little debates around spending this and spending that, but no opposition and no people within the party are actually debating publicly the strategy. And that's a real worry because whether some people are right sometimes or whatever, there needs to be proper debate because we can't keep going like this much longer. Thanks so much for joining us, John. Keep in touch.
Good on you, Chris. Thanks for your interest.
John Ruddick there, as I said, now a former activist within the Liberal Party, jumping ship, going to run for the Liberal Democrats in the seat of Warringah, Tony Abbott's old seat, come the next federal election.